Hello there, Ramblers, and welcome back to Reese Rambles, my weekly podcast all about the latest comings and goings, movings and shakings, and all the rest of it in the worlds of vintage and retro computing, gaming, and technology. Hope you're all doing well out there, and indeed a lovely, glorious, sunny weekend here in the UK. I think I saw somewhere that it was going to be like 16, 17 degrees C here, right in the Midlands and right in the middle of the UK, so definitely something to look forward to. And speaking of things to look forward to, I'm running a half marathon on Sunday. Yeah, 13.1 miles. That will be up in Nottingham, which is quite local for me. And it's actually part of a much bigger thing that I haven't really talked about publicly. So I suppose it's about time I started talking about it, because I am running the London Marathon right at the end of April. I think it's the 27th. It's the last weekend of April. And I need to raise some money for that. I think I'm just over halfway towards my my fundraising target. I do have a Just Giving page, and anything that is donated through that page does go directly to the charity, which is really cool. So yeah, I should probably link that down below actually. But I'm going to start doing some more fundraising type stuff, some live streams and that kind of thing, because raising that money not only goes to an absolutely wonderful and very deserving cause, and one that I have a personal connection to, one that's very close to my heart, but also, it's kind of a requirement of me being allowed to run the marathon. So, yeah, I guess I need to get on with that. I got in with actually quite a late entry. I was on their reserve list, and someone dropped out, and I had a phone call offering me a place. So, yeah, bit of a life goal, really. One of those things. But of course, you're not here to hear about my personal life and about my running, and for me to kind of beg for you to give money to charity. You're here to presumably hear about retro stuff, I guess. So there is a story that I want to dive straight into, and this is one that was posted over on the RMC Discord actually this week. But good personal friend of mine, and I wanted to get the word out and help out with this one as well. Now, this is regarding the SuperSEGA project, and I know there was kind of a period when I talked about this pretty much every single week, and then I just decided the whole thing was just a complete clown show. Let's say that. I just decided to drop it. Just tell people, please don't give these people your money. But this has taken a bit of a twist, and like I say, it has affected someone who I know personally. So I just wanted to get the word out there, kind of do my bit. This is a story on gamingretro.co.uk, and I must admit this story is quite scathing and quite negative, deservedly so. So that's good. Quite cynical. But there is one thing that they have posted as part of this story, and it has popped up on a few other kind of small independent gaming news websites as well. And basically, they're talking about the Super Sega console. Obviously, if you're not aware, it's this FPGA-based console from a team in Spain, run by a very charismatic and dodgy guy called Alejandro. There's been a whole saga around this where he's pretended to be dying, and he bought a Lamborghini and took a load of money from people without really sort of giving them a heads up about it, and then claimed to give it back but didn't actually give it back. It's a whole thing. It's a load of fun. Somebody needs to do a video on this. Probably Slopes. That's his kind of thing, isn't it? But the latest twist is that they're going into mass production with this board that they've shown in the past that people in the know have looked at and said, well, no, this doesn't look like any kind of viable thing. But yeah, no, they are forging ahead with trying to claim that it is a viable project. But they've sent out a press release, and like I say, some of these kind of smaller websites have published this, and it includes this image here. Now, if you are listening to this on the podcast platforms, and this doesn't just go out on YouTube, it's also on all of the popular podcast platforms as well. It's a close-up of a PCB. And there is a very prominent logo visible on this PCB, very kind of professional looking PCB. And the reason this PCB is so professional looking and so final and complete looking is because this wasn't designed by a bunch of monkeys. This was designed by a company that actually know what they're doing and have lots and lots of prior experience in this field and are already producing fantastic products. And also, like I say, it is someone I know personally, so I do need to be upfront about that. But yeah, this is the MegaWHAT 2 board, and they're sending out an image of this as part of a press release to these gaming websites and claiming that it's part of the Super Sega. But they've chosen a shot that has the multi-system logo on it, which there we go. So Anyway, the Mr. Multisystem, of course, is a competing product. Of course, it's Mr. based, allows you to play all of those cores, the fantastic kind of low-level, hardware-level emulation or simulation or whatever word you want to use of all of those old computers and consoles and things. Massive fan of the Multisystem, massive fan of the Mr. project in general. As you probably know, if you are a regular here, can highly recommend getting one if you are into your kind of retro gaming and retro computing stuff. But yeah, the Multisystem 2, which is under very active development. In fact, it's kind of becoming very final and very nice at the moment. Coincidentally, Richard did actually put out a video on the official Mr. Multisystem account a couple of weeks ago, which did completely pass me by at the time because of other stuff that was going on. But he does show off this very board, which is complete and is working and is pretty much ready to go into production. And they're just at the point now where they're going to be announcing pricing and stuff. They're just finalising a few things. But yeah, it also gives me an opportunity to kind of steer you away from this Super Sega thing and point you towards this, because this is an actual real project and it's going to be fantastic, because I own the V1 of this. And they've added a load more I/O and a load more... a load more features and stuff to it, which are covered in this video. So there you go. That's the Mr. Multisystem 2, and there is a development update. I'll link to this video as well. But I guess I just wanted to get the word out there and say, look, if you've seen this press release from the Super Sega team popping up on these various retro gaming websites and stuff, the pictures of the board that they've included in the press release aren't even their board. And anyone who knows anything about these FPGA systems will probably spot that immediately. So there you go. All the stuff that I mentioned in this ramble, as always, will be linked down in the description. And if you are listening to this on your favourite podcasting platform, it will be in the kind of the show notes in your podcasting client, I'm sure, as well. So that's that. And let's get on with the rest of the stories for this week. My second story for this week also has a Sega connection, and it's a game series that I am very fond of indeed, one that I have a lot of history with. Going back to, I can't remember if I first encountered this on, it was either on a Mega Drive that we got secondhand from my auntie, from my cousins, I think, or from another cousin's Game Gear when I was very, very young. I can't remember, but it was definitely a Sega console, of course, because of the franchise in question. It's Sonic. It's Sonic the Hedgehog. I'm a huge fan of the original game. And actually, when I went on to get a Dreamcast, Sonic Adventure 2, big fan of those as well when the game went 3D. And I went on to get an Xbox and kind of quite enjoyed the 3D Sonic games on those as well. All right, I know they're kind of a bit Marmite, a bit hit and miss. Some people love them, some people hate them, but... hey, we're not about hating here on this podcast, so there we go. But the big news this week concerning Sonic and all the rest of it is this. So this was posted over on my Discord server by Gravitone, a regular contributor, but this has been quite widely covered as well on various other websites and podcasts and YouTube and everything as well, because it's big news. This is a project called Unleashed Recomp, and what this is it's a port of Sonic Unleashed. So the Xbox 360 game from 2008. In fact, let's just take a moment to check out a video on this rather than going straight to the GitHub page. So this is a video over on Matt Casey Bytes. Love Matt Casey, really knowledgeable guy when it comes to this kind of stuff, and a huge Sonic fan as well, as it happens. But I will link to this video so you can go and watch his video, because he does explain how all of this works. Really fantastic, interesting video. But as you can see from this footage here, this is running amazingly well on the PC. This is actually running on the PC, and the people that have ported this have added loads of extra options to it as well. So you can change stuff like the resolution and the field of view and the frame rate and stuff, so it's not locked to 60 FPS like it was on the 360. And the reason that they've managed to make these very kind of low-level changes to this game, or the kind of the method that they've used to allow them to do this, is called static recompilation. Now, I am a developer in my day job, but this isn't something that I really have much kind of personal experience with, but I will try to explain it to you. So I will say the Matt KC video does explain it a lot better, but essentially what they've done is they've taken the actual game, the actual executable code that runs on the Xbox 360, and developed a tool to basically turn that compiled running code back into a form of source code, back into C++ code. And what that means is that it's not the original code that was used to actually make the game, but it does, if you recompile it, it does turn back into the same running program, if that makes sense. So what they've done, what this allows them to do is, of course, to not only make modifications to the game, because they can modify that code and then they can compile it back into a working game again, but they can modify it in such a way that allows it to run on different platforms other than the Xbox 360. And that is the big news here. So Unleashed Recompiled is an unofficial PC port of the Xbox 360 version of Sonic Unleashed, created through the process of static recompilation. I'm reading from their GitHub page here. The port offers Windows and Linux support with numerous built-in enhancements such as high resolutions, ultra-wide support, high frame rates, improved performance, and modding. The project doesn't include any game assets, so you will need to track down your own Xbox 360 copy of this game. If you own a 360, it's quite easy to rip the assets from the original disc. I'm not going to cover that here. But yeah, they're basically, they've developed these tools that take the original PowerPC code and Xenos shaders and convert them into compatible C++ and HLSL code respectively. And then that code can go on to be recompiled for other platforms. The minimum requirements for this are actually quite reasonable. So it will run on a Intel Core 2nd generation Sandy Bridge or an AMD Bulldozer. So, nothing too complicated at all. Direct3D 12 GPU support. So if you've got a GeForce GT 630 or a Radeon 7750, or even on Intel HD graphics 510, Skylake and above, 8 gig of RAM required, Windows 10 or modern Linux distro. And the base game's 6 gigabytes with all the assets and stuff. Or if you have all the additional DLC and stuff that goes along with it, then it's 10 gigabytes in total. So very, very reasonable stuff, as you might expect for a game from 2008. But the GitHub goes into really, really really good detail about how to kind of perform this process yourself and get this game built. It's probably available for download somewhere out there. To be honest, I haven't bothered trying to track it down myself, and I'm not going to be linking to that, but you can probably find it if you want to. But and I think the interesting thing about this process, of course, is, all right, this is Sonic Unleashed. It's a single game from 2008, but the tools that they've developed aren't specific to this game. I mean, they've been highly optimized for this game because that's what they've been using for testing, and that's kind of the project that they've been working towards. But of course, this opens the floodgates for other Xbox 360 games to get these nice kind of enhanced PC and Linux, and presumably they'll be coming to Mac and other platforms before too long. Modern day ports by kind of third-party homebrew developers and homebrew modders. And I mean, let's face it, these offerings are already better than the official PC ports of these games, aren't they? With the functionality that they add and stuff like that. I mean, Sega, mate, should just bloody pay these people for this thing and put it out there as a commercial product, release it on Steam and everything else, because it is great. But anyway, that's the news. So yeah, Sonic Unleashed has a port to the PC. It's essentially a native port because it's been decompiled, modified, and then recompiled natively for that platform. And it also means that these tools are now available for people to do the same with other Xbox 360 games of this particular period, which, all right, of course we have emulation, and, emulation is fantastic. But to have a native port, particularly with the enhanced features and things, I think it is just going above and beyond. I mean, it's got built-in kind of upscaling of the textures and resolutions, and it looks fantastic. It looks absolutely fantastic. So my hat is off to the developers of this particular project. I just wanted to make you aware of it if you haven't seen it already. I will be linking to this video as well, the Matt KC video, and I can highly recommend that if you want to go and check out how this all works in a lot more technical detail and see the whole thing running and looking glorious. But yeah, how cool is that? I think that's very cool indeed. And while we are on the subject of Gravitone and his fantastic submissions to my Discord server, and indeed the Xbox 360, and I must say, if I was a smarter man, I would have tied this in to the previous story, but I haven't, because I'm not that well organised, as you probably know if you're a regular here. This is to do with a brand new exploit, a brand new hack for the Xbox 360, which is actually very noteworthy for a couple of reasons. So if we head on over to the official GitHub page for this, this is a hack that has been developed and made available by somebody going by the name of Grim Doomer, which is a fantastic name. I highly approve of that, of course. And it's an exploit for the latest Xbox 360 dashboard version that was released, the very last version that was released, version 17559. A lot of these hacks, of course, as they're developed over the years, tend to be they tend to be tied to very specific versions with very specific known exploits, and then you're stuck being unable to upgrade to later versions and stuff like that. But nope, this runs on the very latest version, and all that's required, so this is entirely software based, and that's what makes it noteworthy. All that's required is a copy of Tony Hawk's American Wasteland, and essentially you copy the files to a USB stick, fire up the game, and then you load a save game from that USB stick, and it basically breaks the dashboard wide open for you to run any kind of unsigned code and homebrew stuff and stuff like that on your Xbox 360 console. Of course, this is something that was only previously available via hardware modification, stuff like RGH, the reset glitch hack, had to actually open the console up and solder wires and things to certain places and things. Very precise timing involved with trying to sort of override parts of the boot process and hijack things. And, then you could go on to run homebrew games and homebrew dashboards and that kind of thing on the console. But this is the first fully software-based exploit for the 360. So very, very big news indeed. And the console that's taken quite a long time to crack, really. I mean, I remember, I owned a Wii when they were current, and I did the, I can't remember which hack, was it the Banner Bomb hack, I think it was called, something like that, where you just stuck a file on an SD card, and then that was literally it. You could run the homebrew channel and all sorts of stuff on there, and my Wii has stayed that way ever since. But yeah, the original Xbox, you could do soft mods and stuff to that to allow you to run all sorts of stuff on it. But the 360 has been surprisingly resilient in that particular aspect. But no more. Now, there are some very important things to bear in mind with this hack. Firstly, there isn't really anything useful that you can do with it yet because it was only published 4 days ago. Secondly, it's not persistent. So you run the game, you load the save game, the exploit runs, and it blows the whole dashboard wide open, ready for you to run whatever you like. But then, and then if you reboot the console, it's all gone. It's not persistent. It's all kind of in RAM or whatever. And stuff will need to be developed to make it persistent, to make it run on boot and stuff like that. And of course, I have every faith that will come in time. This is how these hacks and things are always developed. Someone comes along with a very kind of a proof of concept that's a bit rough around the edges and it needs a lot of development, and then very, very quickly people build upon that and make it into something incredibly useful. And I'm hoping that's the way this is going to go. Not least because the 360 is one of my favourite consoles of all time, and it's one that I would quite like to get back into and probably make a video about as well, because I did one on the original Xbox. Where I did a mod chip and an HDMI mod and a load of other stuff, and I've had loads of fun with that console. It's one of my favourite things. That console pretty much permanently set up and ready to go, and to be able to do that with the 360 does seem like the kind of the logical progression from that. So there we go, a new software-based hack for the Xbox 360, and definitely something I'm going to be keeping an eye on. So watch this space. So here's a very interesting thing that was submitted by Crafton. So thank you ever so much to Crafton. And this isn't something I'd come across, but and it's not really a machine that I have that much experience with. It's one I've mentioned a few times in these rambles in the past, and it's definitely one that I want to get a bit better acquainted with and cover in a video. In fact, I have one up here on the shelf that was very kindly donated to me by a very good friend and long-term supporter of the channel. And I keep saying that I'm going to do something with that because there's a load of interesting bits of hardware and stuff that came along with it. And I promise I will. I'll do it this year. That gives me what? Another 9 months? Yeah, I need to get my skates on, don't I? But of course, that's the Commodore 64. And this submission was actually just a link to a YouTube video, but I have done a bit more digging and gone to the official website for this project because this is quite incredible. And it also has a very interesting name as well, the MegaWHAT 2000 Turbo Edition. And what it is it's described as a 32X for the Commodore 64. So if you know the old Sega Mega Drive or Genesis, I suppose there was the 32X add-on for it that added a load of extra capabilities and stuff, essentially. And what the MegaWHAT 2000 Turbo Edition does is it's an add-on for the Commodore 64, and it says here other machines as well, but the focus seems to be the Commodore 64 at the moment. And this is entirely built with 74 series TTL ICs. So these are completely off-the-shelf components. And as you can see, if you are watching this on YouTube, there are some pictures of the boards and things. This is quite the comprehensive. I mean, this looks like an arcade board or something. Quite the comprehensive piece of hardware. I mean, my hat is off to Martin Piper, who developed this thing, because this is evidently a labour of love, and it looks like it works incredibly well. So very cool to see. So there's also a software aspect to this as well, of course, the SDK. And it says here, one of the most recent videos shows a Shadow of the Beast demonstration to show parallax scrolling with precisely timed raster effects. Please do consider subscribing to Martin's YouTube channel if you want to see more updates to this project. Yep, highly recommend that. Of course, I will link to that. And it says, it started here when retro arcade hardware was being discussed, and in the back of my mind was the often fabled Mega games by Imagine Software, which were planned to use extra hardware on the Spectrum and Commodore 64 to augment the machine's capabilities. Since this hardware uses TTL logic available back from the same time period, I was wondering exactly how much extra graphical grunt could have been engineered and interfaced with these old 8-bit computers. Ugh. I really should learn to read, shouldn't I? But truth be told, the Imagine hardware was pretty much just extra RAM. But this was a fun project to see how far the arcade hardware was pushing the limits of board size and signal complexity. And it looks like this was inspired by BombJack boards, so I guess that makes sense with the, of course, BombJack Classic arcade game. Makes sense, and all of a sudden the resemblance to an arcade board becomes apparent. So let's just click through to this video showing what this thing looks like. And this is just a very kind of off-the-cuff looking demo here, but we can see the actual hardware in this video. This is from 2 years ago, so this has been under development for quite a long time. But we can see the Commodore 64 here with a load of extra cables and boards and things coming out of it. And we've got this backplane type arrangement with all of these boards plugged in. I love this stuff. This is beautiful stuff, isn't it? Look at this thing. What a project. But the video that was actually linked was this one, which is the very latest demo. This is from the 25th of February. And this shows Afterburner running on the Commodore 64 on the MegaWHAT 2000 Turbo Edition. I'm never going to get tired of saying MegaWHAT 2000 Turbo Edition. And look at it. Look how smooth this is. I mean, look at all these sprites and things. This is running on a Commodore 64. I mean, this is so cool. And somebody's going to come along in the comments and they're going to say, well, actually, a Commodore 64 is barely doing anything here. This is all just running on the additional hardware. But you know what? I don't care. It looks great. This is this project, and I just wanted to kind of point you in the direction of this project. There is a YouTube channel which you can go and subscribe to. In fact, there we go. Now I am subscribed to that. We'll also like that video as well. And you should also be subscribed to this, to Reese Rambles, by the way, and give it a like. Well done, Reese. Good segue there. So yeah, I really like this. I like people taking this old hardware and kind of pushing it to the absolute limits, just for the fun of it, just seeing what's possible. I am, of course, a very big fan of this kind of thing, and always good to raise awareness of these cool little projects that people have going on out there. So that's Martin Piper with his MegaWHAT 2000 Turbo Edition. Please do go and check it out. And yeah, you can build the hardware for yourself. You can download the SDK. You can get developing, porting your own games to this, even writing your own original games and I guess other software and stuff that takes advantage of this original additional hardware. Very, very good stuff. Another classic game publisher is back from the dead. That's right. A few weeks ago, the Retro Collective, of course, announced that they had acquired the rights to the Mastertronic label and were going to start publishing games under that label, which is very cool to see. It'd be nice to see that iconic name and logo reappearing with some modern day releases. And now another one is back, and this one is Acclaim. So this story is over on Time Extension. This was submitted to me by Set Top Boxing, so thank you ever so much for that. Regular. And the headline here, more than 20 years later, Acclaim is back from the dead, and WWE legend Jeff Jarrett is involved. Now, I must say, I know absolutely nothing about wrestling, so good on you, Jeff Jarrett, whoever you are. And so Acclaim is back from the dead more than 20 years after the publisher closed its doors in 2004. The company's focus will be indies and classic franchises, according to a statement issued today. One of the key goals for the relaunched Acclaim is to resurrect and revitalise its beloved portfolio of classic IP enjoyed for years by millions of players, it says. The revived Acclaim has assembled an advisory board comprised of esteemed industry leaders, including Russell Binder at Striker Entertainment, Mark Kaplan at Ridge Partners, and Jeff Jarrett at Global Force Entertainment, continues the PR. That's the wrestler guy, isn't it? Acclaim's growth strategy is further supported by key partners Phil Toronto, partner at Vayner Fund, and Eric Vogel, partner at Jet Management. So, these are the people that are actually investing in this project. Their expertise in investment and management will help foster an environment ripe for nurturing independent developers and driving long-term success alongside the advisory board's leadership. Good stuff. Former wrestler Jarrett is an interesting pick, and one which harks back to Acclaim's connection with the world of wrestling video games, of course. And there we go. Now we've come full circle. So the 57-year-old Jarrett, who has wrestled for the WWF, the WCW, the WWA, and the AEW, okay, I've heard of a couple of those, had this to say about the news. For more than 3 decades, I've had the privilege to have been part of both the wrestling and gaming universes, and I'm thrilled to now be a partner in the revival of Acclaim, an iconic publisher known for releasing some of the most legendary games of the 80s and 90s. From my early involvement with the publisher's hit 16-bit WWF titles to my experience helping shape the TNA wrestling series, which spawned the first video game wrestler to become a full-time roster member in the Squared Circle. I've seen firsthand the type of impact great games can have on players and fans. Resurrecting Acclaim is an opportunity to impart the same degree of passion and love to a new generation, and I'm excited to be involved. Quite rightly. Acclaim's new CEO, Alex Joseph, had this to say: "It's an absolute honour and pleasure to be leading the charge in bringing Acclaim back to the forefront of the games industry. We're fortunate that we have an extremely talented team and that we've already signed some incredible indie titles, which we'll be revealing soon." This is good stuff. So they've got funding, they've got games, they've got people. Proper project, innit? I like this. So Acclaim was founded in 1987 by Greg Fishback, Robert Holmes, and Jim Skoroposky, and grew to become one of the most successful publishers in the video game industry, releasing titles such as WWF WrestleMania, Simpsons, Bart vs. the Space Mutants, I remember that one very well, Terminator 2 Judgment Day, Mortal Kombat, NBA Jam, Turok, Shadowman, Burnout, and more on home system. Of course, they published the Burnout games, didn't they? Goodness. So they filed for Chapter 7 bankruptcy in September 2004, and its assets were auctioned off to other companies. I guess that's supposed to say. So, yeah, good news. Acclaim is coming back, and it looks like this is an actual serious project. It's not some patent troll thing, and we're going to be seeing some indie releases using the iconic Acclaim label and hopefully the logo as well, hopefully in the very near future. Speaking of wonderful names from the past making a big comeback, I have a story for you now from Rich. Thank you ever so much, Rich. And no, I'm not talking about him being a wonderful name from the past making a comeback, because he never went away. But he is wonderful. So thank you, Rich, for all of your support. I know you've been a long-term fan, but anyway, it's not about you and it's not about me. It's about this re-release, this remake of a game that I must say I was aware of, but I've never actually played this one, so it'll be quite interesting to have an opportunity to check this out now. This is a story over on Eurogamer.net, and the headline here is 8-bit classic Head Over Heels is back with chickens, enhanced visuals, and a brand new world. And they do make a big thing about these chickens. I'm not quite sure what's noteworthy about that. Maybe some kind of in-joke. I don't know. Like I say, I've not played the game. But it says here, let's set this trailer going as well, so we've got something to look at. Beloved 8-bit isometric puzzle platformer Head Over Heels is back, and not for the first time getting the remake treatment, bringing colourful modern visuals, refined gameplay when it comes to the PC and the Switch later this year. Now, I will say this is an older story. It does say later this year, but it's actually... Oh, published on March the 3rd. Yeah, the game's actually out now. So apparently later this year covers the span of time from March the 3rd to March the 6th. Anyway, the original Head Over Heels was developed by Ocean Software and released for various platforms, including the ZX Spectrum and Commodore 64 in 1987. It cast players as head and heels, two interstellar spies on a mission to liberate planets from an evil emperor. And all of this unfolded across 300 isometric rooms, with players needing to utilise head and heels, slightly different abilities in order to overcome obstacles, including famously a Dalek with the head of then Prince Charles, and mount their escape from Castle Blacktooth. Now, I'm not sure if the remake's going to have... perhaps it's going to be King Charles in this one, of course. I'm sure he's still going to feature somehow, but... Yeah, apparently this game already had one remake back in 2003, which passed me by. I guess as I've never played it, it wouldn't have come up on my radar. But now we have a new one that is coming out on the PC and the Switch, and it adds a load more content as well. So the new remake is a lot more faithful to the original game's art style. And it has a brand new soundtrack, which has been composed by Space Fractal, re-engineered controls that feel snappy and precise, multiple save points, 3 difficulty levels, hints, and selectable play speeds. And there's a whole new world to explore, complete with new enemies and objects, including chickens. It says chickens again, bringing the total number of majestic locations up to 500. And for those hoping for something a bit more traditional, it's possible to switch back to classic mode, graphics and sounds closer to the 8-bit original. So that's always a good thing to see in a remake, isn't it? So you can switch back to the original sound and graphics as well if you wish. But yeah, you've got the original 300 screens, which is Quite a substantial game, isn't it? Plus 200 more with this new episode with new enemies and all sorts of stuff as well. So that's great to see. Head Over Heels Deluxe is developed by Rusty Pixels and Ogre Games Limited and releases on Steam this Thursday, the 6th of March, which, as at the time of recording, is yesterday. And the Switch version is due to arrive later this year. So if we just click on this, it's just going to go through to the Steam page. There it is. So currently on sale for £9.59. There's a launch offer there, so it's got 25% off at the moment. And it's only got one review. What did that person think? Well, at least they recommend it. Run a Peanut. Game is too fast, even on classic setting. Classic speed should be a little slower. Complete lack of shading and shadows causes confusion and 3D perspective issues. It's too easy to die and lose lives at simple obstacles. That doesn't seem like a positive review, does it? Has this person even played an 8-bit game before? Or sounds pretty much par for the course for me anyway. But there you go. There is a remake of Head Over Heels. And of course, the kind of the unique twist, the USP of this game at the time was that there were two different characters with their own special abilities, and you switch between the two to solve puzzles and things, which is always an interesting twist. And particularly back in 1987, I think would have been quite novel and quite interesting. So there you go. Out on Steam now for £9.59 at the time of recording, and out on the Switch later on this year. And that brings me around quite neatly to my regular Video of the Week feature, wherein I talk about a video that I have watched in the previous week on YouTube that has been enlightening or interesting or educational or all of the above, or possibly none of the above, depending on how things go. But this one does actually fit into all of those categories, and it is retro-related, it is computing-related, it's PC-related. It ticks all of those boxes for once. So, yeah, and this is one that I found all on my own as well. This is a channel that I am a regular viewer of and quite a big fan of because I've discovered some quite interesting things. So this is Michael MJD. And it's a video about a project called One Core API. Now, this isn't a new project. It's been around for quite a few years, but it has very recently had a major update and a major overhaul, which has added a load of new functionality and a load of compatibility and loads of great features. And what One Core API allows you to do is to run modern applications on older versions of Windows, so Windows XP. Now, of course, there are various takes on this and various different versions, stuff for Windows 98 and stuff like that. But I think the impressive thing about One Core API is just how much stuff it can run. And you just install this one thing, just it's one executable that you run that adds a load of extra support and stuff to Windows XP. And then in the compatibility mode drop down, you can right click on your program, go to properties, go to compatibility mode. It adds a load of options for Windows 7, Windows Vista, basically every version of Windows released after XP. So you can basically tell the program that it's running on Windows 10 and make the various resources available to it that would only be available under Windows 10, and it will run quite happily in XP. And I think this whole thing is absolutely fascinating. Now, of course, XP hasn't had security updates for a very long time, and there does seem to be a kind of a militant band of YouTube commenters who will say that, actually, that's... the risk's overblown. You can quite happily run Windows XP as your day-to-day operating system. It doesn't. Security updates are overrated. Not quite sure I follow that train of thought entirely, but hey, if nothing else, it's interesting to see stuff running on stuff that wasn't supposed to run it in the first place. That's very much something that's in my wheelhouse and always something that I enjoy checking out. And I just think this is quite a nice, 23 minutes, 23, 27, nice exploration of this. Michael MJD, as always, takes you along on that journey from installation to testing out some applications and things. I know I've done some videos quite similar to this on my own channel as well. I'm not ashamed to admit that he has been an inspiration of mine on this particular style of video, and I will always give him credit for that as well. But anyway, I'm waffling now. The One Core API, very much something worth checking out. Not sure if I would quite go to all of the effort of installing this on one of my own XP machines and poking around it just for the sake of seeing how it works, but that's why we have videos like this, and that's why we have YouTube, so we can live vicariously through these other people and their own fun little projects and experiments. So, well worth checking out. Yep, Michael MJD, video all about One Core API. It looks like this video has done extremely well, 194,000 views in 3 weeks, so evidently a lot of interest in this, and I found the whole thing very, very interesting. And that's all I have for you for this week's Ramble, so thank you ever so much for joining me. I have my own video to go and work on for the rest of the afternoon now, so very much looking forward to getting stuck back into that. I've already recorded and edited a load of footage, but there's a load more stuff I need to do with this. Looking at quite an interesting piece of hardware with the help of my 486 PC again here. Of course, this featured quite recently in that Windows 95 video. And I've decided it needs a bit more screen time. It's one of my favourite machines in my collection, and it's always fun to work with this one. So got something quite interesting in here to show to you. I've recorded quite a big chunk of that video, and I've got some more stuff to show off today. So hopefully I can get it all done today, and then I can get it edited over the weekend and hopefully get that released sooner rather than later. But as usual, no rush. I want it to be done when it's done. You know what I mean? You know what I mean? So that's all I have for you for this week's Ramble. Thank you ever so much for joining me. I shall be back in the usual place at the usual time at 2 minutes to midnight next Friday. I'm off to go and relax a little bit after I've finished this, and of course I've got that half marathon to run on Sunday as well. Link to the Just Giving page for the London Marathon is down in the description. If you want to go and chuck some money at that, it's very much appreciated, and it's for a fantastic cause. Hope you enjoy the rest of your weekend, and I shall hopefully be seeing you again soonish. So thanks for watching, and bye.